What is going on today, guys? Welcome to the 18th episode of the DailyC show. I decided to record a second episode today just because tomorrow might be a little bit of a busy day getting settled in. So I want to make sure I get you guys out an awesome episode and we can get you rolling into Friday. We'll have a great episode then, and then we can get you rolling into the weekend. So what I want to talk about today is the concept of being coachable. And now the concept behind this is this applies to skills coaches. This applies to anything from parents to mentors to your coaches in your season. And this applies to anyone who you can learn from. And this is something that's really, really important because this is something that applies to not just hockey but your whole life. And understanding that the goal is that everyone can always offer something for you to learn from. And realizing that you need to let go of your ego and let go of this concept that what you know is right and that's all that exists and nothing else can possibly interfere with that, and realize that there's always something you can learn. And that's something that's really big for me, and that's been something that I've consistently always tried to push and to continue to develop in me, is that you can never stop learning, and there's always, every single person you meet, every coach, every kid, every parent, there's something that they can teach you that you're not going to understand as well as they will. So never be afraid to get that perspective, and never be afraid to never reject any information. So often what happens with some players is when they first come out to a skills coach, for example, they're a little bit hesitant and they're not really trusting of what they know, and they're kind of afraid to kind of listen, and they kind of doze off and they don't pay attention as much. And again, it's tough for the trainer, right? And imagine you're in that position, and imagine you're the trainer and you're trying to teach someone else a skill. Now, if that person is attentive and listening and excited, and they listen to what you're saying, and then they take action right away, and they're not afraid to make mistakes and keep trying, it just makes your life so much easier. So think about this in the hockey season. Now, when your coach says something to you, and maybe at first you think, oh, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but then you ask them, okay, so you have them explain it to you. So now what you can do is you can take that concept and you go right after it, try to see exactly how you can use it right away, take action on it, show that you're listening, and show that you're ready to move into that advice right away, and absorb that information. And you should always realize that your coach is never just looking at one specific example. They're always looking at a whole bunch of different things. So they're trying to help all of your team come together so that you can win that championship at the end of the year. So something might not make sense at first, but what you have to realize is that in the long run, that's going to be very, very important, because that one little skill, like getting the puck up off the glass, is going to be something that's going to be really important in tight games at the end of the season when you need to get that puck out consistently. And if it gets knocked down, it's going to cause problems because it might get stuck in your end. You might get scored on in a 1-0 game, and in a low-scoring game in playoffs, you never know, right? So that is the key. That is the meta skill, and by meta I mean that's a skill that applies in all different areas, is the ability to be teachable and the ability to learn very quickly. So what I would say are a couple little key things to keep in mind is, one, automatically never assume that you know everything, ever. And that's something that I think a lot of people get caught up in, is they think what you know is what you know, and that's it. But you have to realize there's always something more you can gain. So from that, you have to realize you have to have a complete open-mindedness to all new ideas. So never be afraid to, when you hear something that says, oh, we'll try the opposite of what you're already doing. Well, if what you were doing before was getting you the results that you didn't really want, then don't be afraid to switch it completely up. And don't be afraid to take that advice and experiment with it. And that transitions into 3. Experiment. And take everything and use it. So take action right away, and then see if it works. And that's the key, right? Is you'll never know if something works for you until you give it a try, of course, to an extent, and see how your body reacts, see how your game reacts, and then take note of it. So don't be afraid to keep like a little hockey journal and write down some things that you learned from your coach, or some things you talked about with your teammates, your line mates, or really anybody. Take note of it and then start to experiment and figure out, okay, so I need to improve this part of my game. Maybe it's a skill, maybe it's a mechanic, maybe it's a system, so a decision-making thing you're making in a game, and help to improve that. Because what we're trying to do, just like we've talked about in past episodes, is we're trying to layer on top of each other our skills, so that eventually we can get to that level where we're, by the end of the season, when we're ready to play in that championship game, we're ready to dominate because we've layered up those skills. So the biggest thing for layering skills is accepting that there might be a new layer that you don't understand yet up here. So you have to be willing to have that open mind and be willing to absorb that new concept and be ready to experiment. Try it. And you know what? If it doesn't work right away, then you need to figure out a new approach and you need to keep pushing. So never accept that something is never going to work. You just need to accept that you need to experiment with new stuff and keep taking new approaches until it works. And with that mindset, you'll never fail because you'll continue to always try. There's no such thing as failure. Failure is ultimately, like Kobe Bryant has a quote saying that the only day that I will ever fail is the day I don't come back and try again. And it's as simple as that. Things are always going to be thrown off, things aren't going to go perfect all the time, but you have to realize that when things aren't perfect, you simply need to continue to adjust and try to tweak and make movements towards where you want to go. And always be willing to listen to all other perspectives, and always remember that other people have tons of stuff to add to the mix. So you can never know enough, and you should always continue to try to build, and that's going to help you win championships. So keep working, guys. Remember, keep listening to everyone around you, and again, experiment. See what's getting the results, and if it's something you're doing isn't, then talk to people, get answers, ask questions, and never be afraid to get clear. So if you don't understand something from a coach, never be afraid to ask. And because if you're acting with the intention of trying to improve and trying to win, you can never go wrong, because that's the ultimate goal of the team, is to win. And that's what we want to focus on all the time. So I hope this helps, guys. I hope you keep that in mind. So this is how I think you can continue to improve your coachability and continue to become a better learner. So have a great day, guys. Have a great Thursday. Enjoy the rest of your day, depending on what day this is, and continue to crush it. I will see you guys Friday for the final episode of the week, and have a great rest of the day.